Hello, everyone. We have Jennifer McKeever today. Welcome,
Hello.
Jennifer.
Thank thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Okay, thank you for coming. Thank you for accepting. And I would like to start with who is Jennifer McKeever? I want you to speak a bit about yourself.
Okay. That's such a big open question, but I'll start with some of the easier kind of details. I am a psychotherapist. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm a somatic psychotherapist, meaning that my work is focused in on the body, and the focus of my work is healing trauma, whether that is more of a shock trauma or more of developmental, early childhood development, trauma that impacted us early in life, and that went on to influence the course of who we became, our sense of self, our sense of limitations in the world, our sense of safety in the world, things like shame, self love, possibility for ourselves. And so I'm somebody who likes to walk alongside people who are answering these big questions about themselves. I don't think somebody comes from this work unless that's also part of their history. So that's also been part of my journey in life to find out more who am I, and to heal and work through those types of issues as well.
You studied psychology, right?
Yes, I'm a
Why? In the
licensed registered.
beginning, why? What was the reason for that?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I originally was an acupuncturist. My first master's was in Chinese medicine, and I had a private practice in San Francisco and Dallas. I'm originally from America, even though I live now in Canada. And so I had a private practice for many, many years, and I loved it. I loved what I did. I loved working with the body. I loved Chinese medicine, herbal medicine, all of that. And then I moved to Canada to be with my husband and started getting into different types of modalities for healing. I expanded out. It wasn't just needles and herbs anymore. I started to really study breath and understand trauma and the nervous system. And then I went through a lot of body based trainings, the somatic experiencing training, multiple trainings, biodynamic breath work, and trauma release. I started to become a trainer for that system. And then I really wanted to understand even more. And even though I had done many, many trainings, I had read lots of books on psychology, and I had done a lot of my own work. I'd been in therapy. I'd been part of this process group called Path of Love. I was facilitating Path of Love. There was much work I was doing in the field. I decided to then go ahead and actually get another master's degree in psychotherapy. So, and you ask why, and I think I'm fascinated by human consciousness, and I'm fascinated and really want to understand who we are, and not just at the layer of our personality, but at our depths. Who are we? And to get to those depths, we have to work through the ways we've been conditioned, shaped, and of course, trauma is part of all of that. And so my work is a natural to me, it's a natural outgrowth of my own wanting to understand better who I am, to really get to know myself at my core. And how I do that is by being with others as they explore the depths of their core.
Yeah, you said you started with Chinese medicine.
Mhm.
I'm interested in learning about why healing. What was attractive for you in that field?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I have to go back because I started as a body worker when I was 19 or 20 when I first started studying the body. And at that time, I was in my undergrad and I was an anthropology major. And my intention was to study shamanism. I was fascinated by Carlos Castaneda and all the books about indigenous healing methods. And it was during that time in my undergrad where I got introduced, and I was in Minneapolis. I went to University of Minnesota, and I got introduced to somebody local who was an acupuncturist. He was from Japan. And at that time, acupuncture and Chinese medicine was not so widespread as it is now. And so I got interested in this person, and they were offering some classes to start to learn about the body. And I was fascinated with the idea. And so I started taking classes with them. And I realized somewhere in there that, oh, I don't want to study traditional healing approaches. I actually want to do the work. I'm actually really interested in this as a career. So I finished up my undergrad and went to Chinese medicine school. That was my first master's degree. And it just became this thing of I didn't want to intellectually study it. I really wanted to understand it. And it just felt like a calling. It just felt like who I was, and I was just called to it. And it was wonderful. I mean, I love Chinese medicine still. I love the view of the body and our rhythms and our cycles, and how there's so many places, all these layers and depths within us that are all interconnected. Um, so the love for the work still remains inside of me, even though the modality, how I work with the body now, is very different because I no longer practice acupuncture.
I see. You talked about path of love. What is that?
Mhm. Path of Love is, oh, I think a smile comes on my face. I love Path of Love. So Path of Love is a 7 day, um, it's a 7 day journey. It is one of the most intense, loving, beautiful, just astounding personal development processes in the world that exist today. And it really, when I say it's a journey, it's a 7 day journey, is we go through the entire human condition. What does it really mean to be human? What does it mean to long, to feel pain, to explore, to face our deepest fears? We go through all of this in the 7 day process to understand and work through the challenges of our heart, to understand and work through the challenges of being an alive, loving, present, passionate person in this life. So, in that, of course, we have to look at the ways we've learned to shut down. So, in those 7 days, we deeply examine, feel into, work with, explore all these different facets of who we have come to believe that we are, with the goal or the intention or the movement inwards to discover actually who we really are. And so it's a 7 day process. It's held all around the world. I facilitated in Canada, I facilitated in Greece, in Italy, in different places around the world. And to me, it's an astounding gift. And it's a journey that everybody should go on at some point in their life. People always speak about their life as in terms of my life before I did Path of Love and my life after Path of Love. And they really discover then how to love themselves, how to love each other, and how to really be in the world with all of who we are.
Path of
Mhm.
love, I want to ask, how did you start with it?
Oh, this is great. What would it have been? It would have been in 2010. Yes, in 2010, so 15 years ago. I was facing a really hard time in my life. I was in a relationship, I was in a marriage that I really felt like I was supposed to be in. But we had a lot of challenges, a lot of ways we were not the right people for each other. And there was a lot of different inner dynamics within me of why I could not make a decision. I was so stuck. I was paralyzed, unable to really figure out what I want, who am I, what kind of change do I want, what do I want for my life. I couldn't. I spent years spinning in this. And a friend of mine who was familiar with Path of Love, he had never done it, but he knew people who had, said, "Hey, I've heard of this fantastic process called Path of Love. From what I understand, it changes people's lives. Maybe you want to go do this so you can basically go fix yourself." His explanation was to me.
So you
And
didn't
I
go
looked
with
at
the
it.
intention of becoming a facilitator. You were a participant.
No, I was an acupuncturist in Dallas, happy doing what I was doing. I was never going to change. No, I was going to figure myself out because I needed some figuring out. With all the self love I can say for myself, I needed some figuring out. And I went and it changed my life. I discovered things about myself that I had never felt before. I felt things I'd never felt. I expressed things I'd never felt. I got real with myself in a way I had never done before. Even though I had done years of therapy, I had done tons of other groups before, but that group made all the difference. And then once you participate in Path of Love, you can come back and volunteer staff. And people do it over and over and over because even as a volunteer in the program, you're still discovering so much about yourself and you're supporting others in their journey. So I started coming back every year and volunteering and volunteering. And then eventually there was a chance for me to start getting trained as a facilitator, and I jumped at the opportunity. By then I was already working with people, I was already doing breath work, there was a lot of work. My life had already transitioned by that point, and I was no longer an acupuncturist, but my work had then be about working with people in trauma. So all the facilitators were trained in how to work with trauma. I was a trauma therapist already by then, and so it became a natural transition.
And you still
Yeah.
continue doing that, right?
Path of Love.
Yes,
Oh yes, yes. I lead uh 3, 4, 5 a year, something like that. It changed. Yeah, yeah. I A big part of my life is Path of Love. It's really a passion, along with BBTRS. Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
And let's come to breathwork. Let's talk about breathwork
Mm,
a bit. I know that you are doing
okay.
breathwork and like you have a workshop, breathwork workshop in Mombohto Academy. So, what are you doing? How did it start?
Mm. It's another funny story. I like how you're asking me these questions. They give me things I don't really normally think about. But okay, so breath work. My first introduction to breath work was probably over 20 some years ago. I used to every once in a while, do it like a tantra group or some other type of group process, and breath work would be a piece of it. And I didn't like breath work, actually. I found it to be very harsh. I found it like, for me, it was often, it felt overwhelming. Or everyone else in the room would be having these amazing experiences, and I was feeling nothing. I was feeling pretty shut down. um, I just didn't get it. I didn't like it. I didn't feel any benefit really from it. My hands would clamp up and my body would hurt, and I just didn't like it. And then about 11 years ago in 2014, um, I was traveling. I was on a sabbatical and heard about this type of breath work called biodynamic breath work and trauma release. And I was already very interested in trauma work because of all the work I've been doing with people. I looked into it, found out a few friends of mine had done the training. They said it's amazing work. It's very different from the kind that makes you uh, all the stuff that I hated. And so I happened to be on this Greek island called Lesbos at the same time that a training was being offered. And so I just jumped into the training at the Osho Afro Center, and I loved it. It was 7 days. I like 7 day groups, I guess, and and um, and it was something that, again, I felt my body different afterwards. How I work with people is I offer people the things that made big changes in my life. I don't go based on theory. I go based on what I have really felt the difference to be. And so BBTRS, my body became different. How I felt my body became different. My sense of being in my body, even though I'd done tons of trauma healing work already, my experience of living in my body was different, and I fell in love with the work. So I finished the training. It was went to Poland, went to Greece, went to Sedona, learned more and more and more, and then kept practicing and facilitating the work. And then after a while, I had some ideas of what I could offer the program, and so I proposed them to Giten Tankov, the founder. He loved my ideas, and we started working and collaborating together, and then we started teaching together, and eventually I started we still facilitate some trainings together, and then there's other trainings I facilitate on my own, and then I lead online workshops as well. It's Giten, myself, and another facilitator named Nasarga that teach the online training part of our program. So it's something I'm deeply passionately involved with, and I love offering breathwork now because I have found that breathwork, it's not for everybody. I'm not one of those breathwork facilitators that say, oh, this is the end all be all perfect thing for everybody. It's not. I really believe in being ethical, in being trauma informed, and being intelligent in what I offer. But for those for who breathwork is the right fit, it is able to very quickly access what's here in our bodies in ways that could take weeks or months or even years sometimes of talk therapy to try and reach. And with a trauma informed modality like BBTRS, we're able to very safely help people start to open up their bodies through the breath and release the layers of tension, of stress, of old trauma that our systems are holding. So for me, it's quite unique and important.
What is BBTRS?
Biodynamic breath work and trauma release. That's quite a mouthful of a sentence to say. So the modality, the abbreviation is BBTRS.
Biodynamic.
Dynamic, yeah, breath work, biodynamic breath work and trauma release system.
So
So
we are releasing
BBTRS,
trauma with breathwork.
breath work. Yes, we actually, there's 6 elements to this modality of breath work. So there is the conscious connected breathing. There's touch. When we work in person with somebody, the facilitator is helping to open up the body tension through touch. When we do it online, we use self-touch. There's movement, because once the energy trauma you can think of as frozen, constricted, stuck energy. And once we start to open that energy up, that energy needs to move. And so certain types of movements are part of the work. So we have conscious connected breathing, touch, movement. We use sound, both sounds that we make through toning as well as music. Conscious emotional expression. This work is really about being conscious and present in your body and in your feelings. And then the final element is meditation. So those are the 6 elements that we work with in BBTRS to help release what is held in the body. It's not just a simple lay down and breathe thing. It's a very well constructed way of working with the body. And we also bring in elements of trauma therapy from somatic experiencing. We bring in titration and pendulation as ways to help make the modality even safer for people to explore.
Beautiful. Today you are doing the
Mhm.
path of love and breathwork.
Yes, as well as I also have a private practice working with clients. But because I travel so much for teaching, so I teach in the BBTRS training. I teach in-person trainings in our online program. I facilitate Path of Loves. I also facilitate the introduction to Path of Love, which is a weekend workshop called Awakening
What
of
is that?
Love. Awakening of Love. It's a
Awakening of
weekend
love.
workshop. It's
Uh,
an introduction to Path
again
of
with the
Love.
path of love group, right?
Yes, that's a
I once
yes,
did
it's
that.
exactly. You did the
Yeah,
Awakening of Love?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Great. What did you think of it?
No, it was great. It's
Mm-hmm.
a weekend workshop, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, exactly.
I did that.
Mm-hmm.
I did that with
Ah,
Milan Carmeli. I don't know you.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, cool. Yes, yes. So yes, I facilitate several of those a year. So between the teaching, and I also teach for other breathwork schools as well. I teach psychology. I teach trauma education. So between all the teaching I do and the facilitating, I do have a small private practice. I don't see new clients. It's people I've been working with for quite a number of years, or people who've come and done Path of Love with me that need some more support and follow-up work afterwards. My practice isn't generally open to the public. But yeah, so I keep quite busy.
Are you satisfied with all this healing work, or do you regret anything? I mean, if you take you to the age of 15 now, do you follow the same path?
Yeah, I think so. Where I hesitate a little bit is sometimes um, I wish I made more time for things like making art. I love painting. I love drawing. I love colors, and so I tend not to make the amount of time for myself for those sort of things I like, and those things take time. But other than that, yes, I love what I do. I love it. I can't imagine myself doing anything other than what I'm doing. I was very happy being an acupuncturist. I thought I'll just be because acupuncture, you don't have to retire. I mean, if you're 90 years old, you're the best acupuncturist in the city. You have the most experience. I was never going to retire, but I've shifted careers, and what really for me got me going was just the advances in our understanding of trauma and how to heal trauma. And I always want to be able to offer the best. I want to be able to offer what is going to be most helpful. And when I really started getting into understanding what is trauma, how does this impact us? What is the root of our suffering? What is it that we want to heal from? What is that? And when I saw how trauma impacts so many of our physical issues in life, I could see that many of the illnesses I was treating through Chinese medicine may have had their origin in trauma, chronic pain, chronic bracing, certain syndromal conditions like chronic migraines. fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, chronic digestive disorders. All these issues often have their roots in early childhood trauma that have gone on to impact their nervous system and had then gone on to impact the course of our development and our health as adults. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, Chinese medicine is all about how do we heal the root of a condition rather than just the symptoms. Western medicine tends to be more focused on how do we heal the symptoms. Chinese medicine is looking more at the root, which is why I really love that modality. Well, trauma work is getting down into the sub basements of those roots. So yes, what I do, it's endlessly fascinating. No 2 days are the same. Everybody is unique and different, and I'm allowed to really move into very deep spaces with people. And I love that. I really, really love people, and I love meeting people in the space of their heart. And when we can then together explore what's there in the wounds and bring relief, bring back joy, bring back a feeling of safety and connection and belonging. To me, that's so meaningful. That's what gives my life meaning. Yeah.
So beautiful.
Thank you. I feel you're the same way. I feel that you're in the way that you work or the way that you are, that you're wanting to also bring healing.
Yeah, we can say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
Hmm. And I don't know what to ask more. I don't like we started fast, and
We did.
I got my questions
Um,
answered. Is there anything that you would like to add?
I don't think so. I think the only thing I'd like to add on is healing work asks us to go into the unknown. It asks us to go into places that we usually don't want to touch into, that there's maybe a lot of pain or fear around or shame. And I really want people to know that I do everything possible to create the safest possible atmosphere so that folks can go to where they need to go. Because, for instance, in the course that we're going to have starting in September, we're working online. There's going to be a lot of support there, and we're going to take the work at a pace that works for our bodies. There's no pushing, there's no forcing, there's no trying to break open the body with this type of breath work. A lot of types of breath work are very forceful, very pushy, very hard. That's not this. So
We're
I
talking
want folks to,
about your course in Mamba Pluto Academy, right?
yeah, yes, exactly. Yes, that they are going to be held with the greatest amount of respect and safety for their process. I think that's an important thing for folks to understand who might be interested in exploring breath work or exploring breath work and trauma healing in our online course.
Great.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Thank you then, Jennifer. Thank you very much
yeah.
for this talk.
Yes,
Maybe in
yes.
time
Thank
we're
you.
going to repeat that. We're going to talk again. But for
Happy
today,
to talk anytime. Happy to talk anytime.
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.